welcome. Thanks for joining. This is a live session here on Insight Timer on letting go without giving up. And this is, in some ways, it's a very popular theme lately. Um, about letting go, surrendering, um, and yet it's one of the most misunderstood for a lot of people. Um, they think it's about quitting or admitting defeat somehow. And it's not. It's about where you put your energy. That's what it's about. And when you actually figure this out and start living it better, um, it can be incredibly liberating. Really wonderful gift. So, um, so I hope you enjoy this. If you're watching this live, please let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. I'm just outside of Boston. It's a beautiful, clear day here in the 60s so far, getting up into the low 70s. And, I can see the skyline and the harbor, and it's just beautiful, beautiful day out. So let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions or observations or concerns or pushback or scenarios, whatever that you want to share at some point, pop it in the chat. I love this to feel like a conversation and a community. And I'm sure you'll inspire or reassure or validate someone else with whatever you put there. So again, letting go without giving up. So again, most people think that it's both, that letting go is giving up. And they're different though. Giving up means abandoning something or someone that really matters to you, walking away from your values, your people, or a relationship, your commitments. And that's not what we're talking about at all. What we talk about when we talk about letting go, surrendering sometimes is the way to think about it. A year and a half ago, that was my word for the winter, right? Of 24, 25 was surrender. And what it was really about was letting go of your grip on, or your attempt to have a grip on, control things that you were never in control of in the first place, right? Maybe some of them you might have a little influence over, but there's a lot of energy that we spend trying to grab onto, hold on to, control things and people that we don't actually control. And it's exhausting when we're trying to control things that are beyond our control. And it's a lot of our suffering. A lot of our suffering in life is about that. It's about really caring a lot and worrying a lot and trying to control things that are beyond our control. It's like we're fighting reality, right? Pretending that we have control where we don't. And some of it is trying to control how other people feel and think and how they treat us, and what they think of us, their judgment of us, how they feel, right? What they do. And some of it is time traveling, right? Time traveling to the past, focusing on things that we wish we had done differently, trying to undo the past, which we can't obviously do anything about what happened in the past. Or we're time traveling to the future and worrying too much about the future and things that might be beyond our control, or about which we have very little control or influence right now. And that effort to control those things and people, that's not actually effort. It's not putting in a good effort. It's not trying hard. It's an exercise in futility. It's friction in our lives, right? That is unnecessary and that exhausts us. It drains our batteries, right? And so we need to liberate ourselves from that friction and focus our time and energy on things that really matter and where we have some real level of control. And so I want to, it's a good point to talk about a concept that I was first exposed to in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People training. The Stephen Covey, book and program. And, in that, there's this idea of two circles: your circle of control, things you actually have control over, and your circle of concern, things that you worry about or want to try and exercise control over. And usually the circle of control sits within the circle of concern, but the circle of concern is bigger. For a lot of us, it's much bigger than our circle of control. And that's a problem, right? Because, you know, we get a lot of our stress and suffering from the gap there between our circle of control and our circle of concern. Um, again, worrying about, you know, trying to do things that will bring us some level of control over other people, their thoughts, their actions, etc., that we don't have. So part of our goal here is to shrink our circle of concern and grow our circle of control, right? Figure out more ways that we can exercise control over the things that we actually have control over, and be aware of that. Because a lot of times we're not exercising control over things that are actually within our control. And shrink the circle of concern so that they're not never going to match up probably exactly or anywhere close to exactly, but we want to make the gap smaller so that they align more closely, right? And our circle of control, those are things about us generally, right? About our choices and what we say and we do, and our responses to people and our values, and the extent to which we live in alignment with our values, right? That we have integrity or not, right? My middle name, right? In a way, right? Integrity, like that. That's what we have control over, right? We can't control our initial emotional reaction to something, right? But we can control our response after maybe buying a moment to gather ourselves, calm our nervous systems, etc. We can control our values. We can control the extent to which we're committed to living in alignment with those values every day. Whether we're people of our word, whether we use our word for good or ill, whether we gossip or not, right? Do we take good care of ourselves, practice good self-care, right? I mean, all those things, those are all within our control, right? How we show up in the world. We don't control other people and their actions and their thoughts and what they say and how they judge us or other people or themselves. Um, we don't control the past. We don't control outcomes in the future. We might have a little bit of influence over future events, but we spend a lot of time worrying about things we have very little influence over, and we spend a lot of time on ones where we have a little bit of influence, but not a lot of control. And we maybe should spend our time better on things that we have control over, because our attention, where we direct our attention, is absolutely under our control. It feels less so lately because of these things, right? Because they are meant to control and steal our attention. And a lot of us have decided on some level, consciously or not, to agree to give over our attention to our phones. And that's something you can change and shift, right? Because your attention, it's one of your most valued possessions, right? In a way, all these companies are spending all this money for your attention, and we give it away, right? Maybe we should be more thoughtful and judicious about how we spend our attention, where we put our attention, and spend time and attention on things that matter to us and that bring us joy and meaning and purpose, and over which we have control, actually, right? Kay says, and hi, Tanya, always good to see you. Glad you're here. Kay says, thank you. I don't watch the news, and people always ask, don't you care? And of course I do, but much of what's in the news is completely out of my control. Yeah, Kay, I think it's really interesting. And I wrestle with that myself. I used to be a news junkie, and I was a diplomat originally, and a teacher, and so paying attention to the news is in my DNA almost, right? But I don't watch TV news for the most part now. I listen to a little bit of NPR every day. I read a little bit every day. I stay informed, right? But I don't watch, right, the news on TV. It's just trying to grab my attention and disrupt my nervous system, right? And and reinforce my own paradigms and biases, right? No matter what you watch, there's some of that. And so I choose not to put my attention there, right? I want to be informed enough because I'm a citizen. I can vote. And I want to exercise that right to speak out, demonstrate, and vote wisely, intelligently. But I'm very judicious about it. I think a lot of people are these days. So you're not alone there, right? Um, so again, so we're trying to shrink our circle of concern, grow our circle of control, so that we can have less suffering, basically, right? And waste less of our time and our money. I mean, no, and money and energy and um, have healthier relationships. In part, like a lot of times, the friction in a relationship is from us trying to exert control over the other person, or vice versa, or both, right? And that often creates tension. Um, why do we hold on to these things, that these efforts to have control over things we don't actually have control over? Again, like for a lot of us, it feels like losing or admitting defeat when we give up control, when we let other people make their own decisions and do what they're going to do and make their mistakes, right? Um, uh, when we stop worrying about the past or the future, right? It feels like we're conceding something. Um, if I continue to try to have some control over this, maybe it will put off that admission of defeat. The problem is, in that case, that maybe we need to do some grieving, and maybe that will allow us to let go, or maybe letting go will allow us to finally grieve for whatever was lost, right? Whatever disappointment. Um, and so, you got to play around with that a little bit, depending on the situation. You may need to do some grieving first, or maybe the letting go will allow the grieving. Um, with relationships and other people, I think there's something inside of us often that says, if I stop trying to control this person or this situation with them, maybe it'll mean that they don't matter, right? Or that I don't care about them. Because a lot of us got really unhealthy messages and examples as kids that unhealthy attempts to control other people was an expression of love, right? People showing that they cared about you or someone else. And so we need to kind of break that paradigm, right? Shift that paradigm. For some of us, if we let go, it feels like we're, not just validating, but agreeing with the outcome. We're saying it was okay that that thing happened. Um, right? If we let go of a situation we're trying to control and let somebody else make their own decisions about something, maybe it'll feel like we're giving our blessing, but that's not the case. It's just us making a decision about where we put our energy, and then we're putting our energy towards things that matter to us and where we have actual control, right? Um, Fear is, like with so many things, is what's underlying a lot of this, right? It's that we're afraid that if we let go, if we're afraid that we surrender, that we stop trying to exert control over these things, that somehow something really bad is going to happen, or we will feel less than, or um, you know other people might feel that we're letting them down. But it's usually that fear, and we shouldn't be making decisions out of fear, right? We should be making decisions because they align with what really matters to us and our core values and beliefs, and what's a good use of our time and attention, which is on things that we actually can control, right? Um, so in particular, I think like for a lot of us, there are a few things that are particularly challenging and that are really important to practice on a day-to-day basis, letting go of. One is other people's opinions and reactions. Can't control that. We just can't, right? And as the Four Agreements tells us, don't take anything personally. The way other people treat us and react to us, that's mostly about them anyways. It's not about us. If there's something useful in their reaction or opinion that you want to take and consider, great. But otherwise, let it go. You can't control how other people will receive you. All you can do is show up honestly, with clarity, with integrity, with authenticity, right? That's all you can do. And then how people react to you, that's up to them. Not everybody's going to love and like you, just like you don't like and love everybody else. And that's okay, right? It may not be easy to take at times, right? A little blow to our ego, but that's a reality, right? And sometimes there are people who love us who are just in a bad mood that day, or something bad happened to them at work or in another relationship, and they're just going to be ornery, right? And not react well to things that day. That's okay. Gotta let it go, right? It's not about you, right? Every ounce of energy that we spend trying to control other people and their reactions and their thoughts and their opinions, their judgments, it's another ounce of energy that could be spent living our lives, creating more joy, finding more peace, um, right? And I think in each of our lives, it's worth like taking a moment to reflect and thinking, you know, who in my life am I trying to exert control over? Who am I most exhausted by trying to control and influence? Right. And maybe I need to let go on that, right? If it's so exhausting, right? Tanya says, as a recovering type A, I find so much relief in surrendering control. So freeing. Yeah, Tanya, bravo. And that is so true. Like once you buy into this way of thinking about things, it is so liberating and it is so freeing, right? It's such a better way of living. Um, Another area that's a struggle for a lot of us is the past, and it's really trying to hold on to the version of events we wish had happened or thought would happen, right? That things didn't meet our expectations or the way we wanted things to turn out. And we're oh my God, we just think about it and ruminate about it and replay it over and over again and what I should have done or what I should have said or what I should have chosen and all that stuff, right? Trying to rewrite the past, but it can't be rewritten. It just can't, right? And acceptance isn't approval. You're not saying by letting go of that rumination, you're not saying, I think it's great that happened. It's just saying, I'm not going to be at war with myself over what already is, right? I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to continue to fight this futile battle, right? And that is liberating when you can get to that place, right? Like, is there a part of you that's still arguing with the past somehow, right? To what end? Like, it's good to reflect on the past and the way things turned out, and to think about like how you might want to do things differently in the future, and are there consequences of the way things turned out that you need to deal with and you have some control over. Great, do that. But ruminating on what happened and why, and wishing you could have made things turn out differently, like, nope, let it go, let it go, right? um, and then the other is the time traveling to the future, right? Trying to worry about and control outcomes that are beyond your control, right? That we may have a little bit of influence over, but that we can't actually dictate how things are going to turn out. But a lot of us panic and grasp at that. Our nervous systems get so disrupted sometimes, worrying about the future, trying to exert some kind of control over the future. And the reality is that you can do everything right, everything the way you want to, and things can still not turn out the way you want to, right? And get the result that you want. And your job is to kind of let go of any attachment to the outcome and just do the best you can to be authentic, to have integrity, to do your best, right? Again, four agreements, always do your best. And however things turn out, that's how they turn out, right? I learned that lesson incredibly well when I was an activist. Everybody told us what we were trying to do was impossible. And we just decided, look, it's good to fight the good fight. Someone's going to fight the good fight. You never know what could happen. And we're just going to do our best. And we're not going to listen to the people who say it's impossible. But no attachment to the outcome, right? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And that was so liberating. And I know in my case allowed me to kind of be in a flow state a lot and be in my discomfort zone and do things that were scary and take chances, and it worked out. We succeeded. In part, I think because we were liberated from that pressure and expectation that things had to turn out a certain way, and we needed to control that. And again, it wasn't that we didn't care; quite the opposite. It wasn't that it wasn't exhausting still, because we were working 16 hours a day, and it was very stressful work. But it was, we know we're trying to do the impossible. So we acknowledge that, but it's good to fight the good fight. We're going to do our best and act with integrity, and that's all we can do. Right. And that, I think, is a good way of treating the future, that you don't show up any less intentional, quite the opposite. But your attention gets and your energy get put in places where you can actually control things, right? Um, you know, Otherwise, like, we're trying to guarantee some outcome that we can't actually guarantee. It's not our place to guarantee, right? Ward says, "Bless you for your service." Thank you very much, Ward. I appreciate that. Um, there's a uh, uh, an analogy I think that's helpful. I studied the martial arts for a long time, and there are a couple of martial arts uh, that I think are very relevant here. And I'll be doing another session on emotional self defense coming up, so I'll probably talk about this kind of thing again. But Aikido and Jujitsu are really interesting in that they don't meet force with force. There's a lot of redirecting energy rather than meeting it head on, and which is really awesome. And when you see it or practice it, and it goes well, it's really, really quite powerful. And it's, I think, very relevant to this because here we are, we're constantly trying to exert control over things that we have no control over, and we're kind of like pounding away at the wall or a tree, right? It's just immovable. And uh, instead, maybe we need to redirect, and in this case, it's maybe redirect our energy, right, to something or some action over which we have some control, right? And that requires a lot less effort. It's not about being passive, it's about intelligent use of energy. And the reality is that the person who's like trying to hold on desperately, or trying to exert their will on something or someone that's immovable, like, they're going to get exhausted. They're not strong. They're exhausting themselves. Whereas if you can redirect, you can use a lot less effort and energy and redirect to something where you have some control over it and get better results. Maybe be a lot less exhausted too, right? Real strength, real independence is about knowing when and where you need to let go and release your grip and not try to hold on anymore, and where you need to apply your attention and your effort, right? Your energy. Um, yeah. And then I think it's worth reiterating the whole piece about grief as well. That I think, uh, again, a lot of this holding on is, even like trying to control things in the present, is often about trying to, like, undo things that happened in the past or make up for things that happened in the past. And and I think we need to be really cognizant of the fact that we need to grieve things in the past that didn't turn out the way we wanted them to or expected them to, when life didn't evolve in the way we wanted it to, or a relationship didn't play out the way we wanted it to, a job application or an interview didn't play out the way we wanted it to. And to let go and really grieve for it, and practice gratitude for opportunities that we might have had, but also, we need to acknowledge that something was lost, grieve for that. And if we're having trouble letting go, sometimes the grieving process often is what's necessary to finally let go, right? Um, Sometimes it's the letting go that allows the grieving, as I said earlier, right? So you gotta, you know, depends on the situation, right? Sometimes it's like, we don't give ourselves permission to grieve while we're holding on to this, vision of what we wish things had turned out like, or our regrets or our shame or our guilt about the past. You can let that go, then sometimes we have the energy and the focus and the permission now to do the grieving, right? So chicken and an egg depends on the situation, really. Um, so if there's something about the past, and maybe you got to ask yourself, like, do I need to do some more grieving? Um, is that part of it? Because in the end, like, we want to live this way. We want to live where we're putting our attention and our energy on the things that we can control. That's more in alignment with our integrity, right? Our integrity is out of alignment when we're desperately trying to control other people or the past or the future. We can exercise our greatest integrity and be most aligned with who we are and our core values by being fully present where we actually are right now, to be actually here and present with ourselves and with each other, and to do our best to live with integrity right now, right? And that's what, you know, why do I call everything in my, business integrity and joy, right? And I have a group here on Insight Timer, integrity and joy. It's because of this. It's because integrity is, I would argue, the foundation for being fully present and focusing on what aligns with your values, your purpose, and doing your best to do that moment by moment, right? And if you do that, you reduce your suffering, but you increase your opportunities to create and experience more joy, right? And love and connection, right? And that's why we're here. I think we're here to experience more joy, more love, to experience the hardships too, without a doubt, and to let ourselves do that. Not to try to exert this control over things that are beyond our control and trying to save ourselves or other people from suffering. Like that, there's going to be some suffering too, but we exaggerate and extend our suffering and the suffering of other people by trying to exert control over things we don't have control over, right? Um, and you know, if we can really, um, give our integrity, our true authentic selves, the operating space to be present and not be restricted by our desperate efforts to control things we can't control. Um, Life becomes easier to navigate. Hard times become easier to navigate. We find more grace for ourselves and for each other, right? More connection, more love, more joy, right? More healing, more peace, right? That way. Um, right. I love, Tanya, that Aikido is your favorite. I love that. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. I never studied it other than some workshops myself, but loved watching it, and even having it done on me was really amazing. Um, let's take a moment now, and if you feel comfortable, just like we did at the beginning, let's close our eyes or gaze softly across the room and take a couple of deep cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just try to get in touch with, like, what is it that you're not letting go of? What is it that you're holding on to that you need to let go of? What are you putting your attention on that you really have no business putting your attention on? That's about the past or the future, or controlling somebody else, their thoughts, their actions, their reactions, their opinions, their judgments. What is it that you can't let go of, right? And what would it feel like and look like to let go? What would be possible? And what would it take for you to do that? What would it take for you to do that? How can you give yourself permission to let go? Right? What do you need to let go of? What would happen if you did? And what do you need to be able to do that, to let go? Is it a relationship? Is it the past? Is it the future? What is it? And if you feel comfortable, you can pop it in the chat. Let us know, because I'm certain someone else will find it relevant or inspirational or validating to how they are feeling, right? And if there are any questions or things you want to push back on or scenarios, pop that in the chat too. Um, Again, this is something that I think most of us struggle with, and suffer unnecessarily, right? I know that's true with people in my life. There's some people in my life who all they do is worry about things that are beyond their control, talk about them incessantly, and it's just not healthy, right? Um, we need to be present and focus our attention on what really matters. We get a very short amount of time on this journey, and if we're really going to enjoy it and find meaning in it, then we need to be present and not distracted by these fruitless and pointless efforts to control things and people that we can't, right? Tanya says, ruminating over past situations that won't change. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter at this point, which is a great point, right? Even if you could change it at this point, it probably wouldn't matter, right? These live rent free in my head sometimes. I'd feel so free if I finally let them go. Yes. So, Tanya, what would it take? What would it would take to be able to do that? Is it your meditation practice? Is it setting intentions? Is it having a little, you know, practice for a week on just being aware? This is one thing I do with clients sometimes with this, where, spend the first week, small steps, right, to make this change. Maybe the first week or the first couple of days is just trying to be aware of when that's happening and go, oh, there it is. Maybe you want to keep a little journal with you and write it down in your journal. Oh, 135, thinking about the past. Here's what I was thinking about. Um, Oftentimes, just that awareness building is the thing that unlocks it for you, because we fall into these ruminations mindlessly. And then all of a sudden, like half an hour is gone, right? We've been ruminating on something. So maybe it's that. And then, the next week could be like, every time you notice, you're going to reset your nervous system. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths, and then decide where to put your attention. And what you hope is that over time, this practice, you'll start to notice faster. And then eventually, maybe it won't be happening as often, if at all, with certain things. And now we've closed that gap between the circle of concern and the circle of control, right? And that would be awesome, right? Tanya says, maybe some journaling, which I push back against. Well, that's interesting. I wonder why. But when I acquiesce and do it, it helps a lot. Yeah. So where's the resistance there? Often it's fear, something that your subconscious maybe is afraid of come out in your journaling, right? That's what happens with me, I think. I think I both have the fear of like what if the journaling really works and something really comes out? Ooh, I have to deal with it. But I also deal with the like, what if I have nothing to write? Will I feel like a failure if I don't have anything to write? Does that mean I lack depth? Which is absurd that I would lack depth. And it's okay. Like sometimes if you just open your journal and you go, nothing. Okay. Then don't write right then. And other times you might write a book. Great. Right? No right or wrong. It's not there to perform. It's there to help you reflect, process, etc. Right? Get stuff out. Right? Right, Tanya? Yeah, right. It's so funny, right? So funny how the brain works, and in particular, like this is the amygdala just running wild, right? It gets out of control. You get it. Like anytime this stuff happens, where you're ruminating and obsessing about things you can't control, reset your nervous system. It probably needs to be reset in that moment, right? A couple of deep cleansing breaths, and then have a little chuckle and do something that lights up your prefrontal cortex, right? Name what you were feeling. What's the emotion you were feeling? Name it. That can quiet your amygdala and turn on your prefrontal cortex. Just that, right? You can do a little like, what do I see right now? What do I hear right now? That kind of thing. Same thing. And then you'll be fine for a bit. Keep doing that. Your nervous system starts to get used to, oh, we're okay, we're safe, right? And maybe there's less resistance and less ripping on to the past, right? Um, Anybody else got something you want to share? Pop it in the chat. Um, while people are doing that, I just want to remind people that these live sessions are free. They're supported with donations from people like you. I know some of you have made donations in the past, so thank you very much for that support. And if you'd like to have more and more of this in the future, consider making a donation, and we can have more and more of this live content. So thanks for that. And I hope you're following me. If not, please do. And if you want to talk with me about doing some deeper work around some of this stuff, something that you're working on right now that you might need some help or perspective on, you can reach out to me through my profile. I also have a group here, as I mentioned earlier, called Living with Integrity and Joy. And you can join that through my profile as well. You can also find my meditations through there. And I hope you'll check those out if you haven't already and rate and review them and let me know what kinds of meditations you'd like me to do in the future, because I'll be doing some new ones soon. And uh, and then I've also got a mini course that you can take that people seem to really like, and you can even have a back and forth with me in the questions and comments in the mini course, right? So I hope you'll try that if you haven't already. Gives you a little flavor of some of the work that I do with clients. And Tanya, thank you for the donation. Really appreciate that. And then, as I mentioned, I've got a lot of meditations here on Insight Timer, and I hope you check them out if you haven't already. And this is one, when we talk about changing some of these mindsets, this is a good one on changing mindsets, paradigms, and limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs is going to be an upcoming session that I'm doing here. I do these sessions generally on Wednesdays at noon. Next week, different schedule. I'm actually Tuesday and Wednesday going for a little golf getaway with my best friend who lives in New York. So we're trying to keep doing that every year so we can have some time to hang out together. So next week, this session will be on Friday at noon Eastern, and it'll be the stories you tell about yourself and which ones are actually true. It's about our limiting beliefs, right? And this internal dialogue, trying to get a handle on that. So I hope you sign up for that. And you'll see that there are other ones that I've already put up there. The week after next, I will be away the entire week. I'm going to see family and friends in Washington State and hopefully see some whales while I'm out there. And but after that, I'll be back, and we'll be back on the Wednesday rotation, right? So I hope you'll sign up for these future sessions, right? And again, like, if you want to explore doing some deeper work and how I might be of help, just reach out to me through my profile here. Ward, thank you for your support. Appreciate you being here. Angie says, thanks, Steve. Always helpful. I often get frustrated over the past and fearful of the future, but I've gotten better through reminders like yours to stay in the present and focus on what's in my control. That's great. I'm really happy, Angie. Yeah, it's a lifetime struggle for a lot of us, but it is worth making the effort to shrink that circle of concern, right, and grow the circle of control, um, so that we can be more present with ourselves and with each other, right, and not be as exhausted. So that's great. I'm glad. Keep up the good work. And Tanya, limiting beliefs will be an awesome topic. Whoop. Yep, it will be. Yeah, it's a good one. So again, thank you all for being here. I'm deeply appreciative of all of you sharing your time with me. I send you a lot of love and deep gratitude for being a part of this community. Again, I hope you'll join my group here, and I publish my Substack there, and sometimes we share meditations, ways of calming our nervous systems, you name it. Thank you, Angie. I'm glad you like the articles. And Ward, thank you. Really appreciate that. Appreciate your energy as well. So thank you all. Again, look forward to seeing you back here again next week. It's going to be on Friday at noon, and then a week off, and then back again the week after. And in the meantime, I hope to hear from you and hope to see you in the group, right, or in the mini course. Thanks all. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, much love and gratitude to you all. Thanks.